All differences between Invincible Season 3, Episode 1 to 3, and the comic book. In the comic books, when Omni-Man first came to Earth, or Nolan as he was known back then because he wasn't Omni-Man yet, Cecil went to the beach to find him after he fought the giant kaiju, and then brought him back to the Pentagon. Cecil's specialists ran every test known to man to find out if an individual is lying or not, and Omni-Man failed. Cecil was briefed about this by one of his specialists, but in the animated series, analyzed Omni-Man on the beach. He never went back to the Pentagon, and Cecil was briefed about him lying not by a specialist, but by Donald.
What's your name?
Pupils dilated, heart rate elevated. He's an alien, so we don't know his norms, but if he were a human, he'd be lying.
Yeah, no shit.
In the comic books, when Mark found out that Cecil was working with Darkwing 2 and D.S. Sinclair, the reanimate that D.S. Sinclair made completely trashed Invincible. He was covered in blood, he was bruised, but in the animated series, Mark was injured, but it wasn't anything serious, to be honest. In the comic books, after Oliver killed both the Marlowe twins, Invincible took him above the nuclear facility to have a talk about how killing people is wrong, but in the animated series, Mark chased him across the desert. Comic books, after Oliver told Mark that life isn't precious because people kill each other all the time, Mark stated that Oliver sounded just like Omni-Man, and Oliver replied if that's such a bad thing, and if he ever stopped to think that maybe Omni-Man was right. Mark replied sometimes, but in the animated series, he never answered the question.
You sound just like Dad.
So? Why is that bad? You act like you know everything, but do you ever think that maybe Dad was right?
In the comic books, during Cecil's backstory, when he went up against the Order of the Freeing Fist, he was strapped to a chemical bomb filled with Chemical X, and in the comic books he was rescued by Brit. But in the animated series, Brit was never in the series and Cecil took down the Order of the Freeing Fist on his own. In the comic books, Brit was the one who visited Cecil in the hospital after he recovered from being exposed to Chemical X after fighting the Order of the Freeing Fist. But in the animated series, it was Director Radcliffe who visited him.
Come back and collect your medal. Glad to see the artificial skin took, by the way. Except I'm gonna need my money back. They missed a spot.
It was all that was left of my real skin. They wanted to replace it, but I wouldn't let them.
In the comic books, after Cecil found out that Director Radcliffe was using the Order of the Freeing Fist after he lied that they died, Cecil gunned them down in cold blood and then was arrested by the Guardians of the Globe. But in the animated series, he was never arrested by the Guardians of the Globe.
No law inside here, pig.
In the comic books, Cecil never had a cellmate, neither did he seem to take over the prison. He was just a regular prisoner. But in the animated series, he did have a cellmate, and he did in fact take over the entire prison, even cutting down the murders that took place there. It was actually a correctional facility that he corrected.
Hi, what's your name?
There were 3 deaths a week in this place before you got here. 3 years later.
You have no idea what I've had to do to make it this way.
In the comic books, on the Viltrumite prison where Alan and Omni-Man were being kept, the aliens that ran the prison on the behalf of the Viltrumites, we saw every single test they ran on Alan to try to kill him and find out how strong he is, but in the animated series, we didn't.
Guys, okay, 1 second. Can we just talk about this before we, So that sucked.
And those are all the major differences in the Invincible comic book and animated series, episode 1 to 3 of season 3. Thank you for watching.